Okay, everybody, in this video we are going to be looking at the initial configuration for our Active Directory. And we're going to go back and start up our Server 01 AD, which we originally installed Active Directory on. So we've highlighted the Server 01 AD. We'll click on Start from our VirtualBox Manager. Give that a second to fire up. Here we go. Excuse me. Okay, there we go. So in order to log in, rather than Control-Alt-Delete, we're simply going to do a right-hand Control and then Delete for the VirtualBox environment. We'll put in our standard password. Wait for Server Manager to come up. And close this down. Give it a moment. Okay. And there's Active Directory, Domain Services. Click on that and you'll notice this message that comes up right here. So take a closer look at this. And you know what it's saying is that we haven't finished the configuration. We've installed Active Directory, but we haven't finished the configuration. And one of the things that needs to be done is that this server, our local server here, Server 01 AD, needs to be promoted to be the domain controller for our Active Directory. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We'll go up to promote this server to the domain controller, and it's now going to take us through the installation process. Now we are setting up our very first Active Directory for our network. So add a domain controller to an existing domain? No, we're not doing that. Add a new domain to an existing forest? No, we're not doing that. We're starting fresh with everything. So we are going to say add a new forest. And then we're going to give it a name. And we'll start with our course number, then .local. Okay? And we will say next. Okay, so here we are, and it's coming up and it's asking for what functionality do you want your server 2016. Okay, and we're going to go with that for both the forest as well as the domain functional level. And we're also going to do the domain name system. That's something else that we need to install. And we're also going to put on this server the global catalog. For our password, we'll use our standard password on this. And we will say next. Okay. Now you get this warning message, and that's not a big deal. Okay, you can disregard this. All right, and we'll say next. And give it a moment. It will fill this in, the NetBIOS. NetBIOS is an old name service that Windows used to use. You know, I haven't seen any systems using this this service for easily 10 years, closer to 15. So it sets it up. It gives it a name. The name is limited to 15 characters, but regardless, very few systems are going to be out there that are running this thing. So we'll say next. Now it's going to ask us about where the files are going to exist, and typically I just go with the default file locations for the database log and sysfile folders, and we'll say next. And here are all the things that it's going to be doing, you know, the answers to our questions that we previously answered. Next, we'll go into a prerequisite check to make sure that we've got everything in place. There will still be a couple of warning messages, but, you know, we'll be fine. One of the things that we have to fix up is we've got to have a static IP address, and you can see that message right here. And we're fine as it is. There are a couple of changes that we'll need to make. One of them will be to change over our IP address to a static address, and we'll do that in our next video. Okay. So at this point, you know, we just have warning messages here, and everything is fine. So we're going to say install, and we'll allow it to go through the installation process. Okay. So we'll say close. All right. Okay, so the server has been successfully configured and is now the domain controller. And now we're going through a restart. Any moment now. Takes a little longer because we've got Active Directory starting up. This seems to be taking a little longer than I expected. You know, in any of these, you can always fast forward through some of this stuff. Okay, here we are. So again, a right control and a delete key. We're going to log in. Okay, and server manager is still gathering information. Let's give it a moment. But while we wait for that, let's go into the local server, and just want to show you something real quick. You'll notice that our server name, server01AD, and we now belong to the CISC 244.local domain. Okay. You'll also notice that we have both Active Directory domain services as well as DNS up and running. Active Directory added DNS because it's an essential component to Active Directory. Let's maximize this. Okay. And one of the things I want to do, I said I'd do it in the next video, I might as well do it now, is change our IP address to a static address. Okay. So let's bring up our command prompt. Okay. Let's take a look at what we've got for settings. And you'll notice that our IP address is set to 1.119. This is in my home network. Okay. I've got the Comcast service. And my default gateway, which is my Comcast router, is 192.168.1.1. Now what I want to do is I'm going to take this IP address, 192.168.1.119, and I am going to statically assign it to my server. Okay, it's been dynamically assigned through DHCP, but I am going to statically assign it to make the server and Active Directory happy because it wants to see a static address. All right, so we know that 119 is available. It's been assigned to this machine. We're just going to statically assign it now. Okay, so I'll minimize this and we'll go in here and give this a right click, go down to properties. We'll go down to our TCP IP version 4. We'll go to properties and we're going to put in, we're going to say use the following IP. So 192.168.1.119. Subnet mask is /24 or 255.255.255.0. Our gateway, if you recall, 192.168.1.1. Now here, our DNS server is set to 127.0.0.1, which is basically the server pointing back to itself as the primary DNS. Now, one of the things that we should consider is also put as our secondary 192.168.1.1, which is the address for our router, okay, as the alternate DNS. And this is absolutely perfect. We're in good shape. And now what we'll do is we'll say okay. Say close. We'll close this out. Okay. And let's see if it's going to recognize that there we go. It's recognized that our address is static, set to 192.168.1.119. And again, if we go back to our command prompt and we run this again, okay, we see that we're no longer using DHCP. Okay, so here we had DHCP server was 192.168. And now as we come down, you no longer see that to be the case. Okay. So we have now done the initial configuration of Active Directory. At this point, Active Directory will now be controlling such things as user logons, authenticating computer systems as they join the domain, and so on. In our next video, we're going to be looking at how do you, I guess, move or assign a PC system to your Active Directory, okay? All right, so we'll close this out, and that's the end of this video, and we'll continue on.